Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about class systems versus point buy systems. There's a furious debate has erupted on the YouTube RPG Brigade Facebook page forum. That's a mouthful. But furious debate regarding classes, classlessness, and I think no fewer than 3 people have been warned by the moderators to keep it professional and to to stop making ad hominem attacks against each other. My good friend Romaine and Oral Kovacs both engage in furious debate. They're both great guys, and I love them. But as with anything you're passionate about in life, as we all are, sometimes that passion can leak through, and discussions and debates can get heated. Unfortunately, it falls to our good buddy Tim to moderate all this. The poor guy, that'll be pulling his hair out, and he is kind of a mess. So, but I'm going to just ramble about my thoughts. I've posted a lot on these threads. These are one of the threads I haven't been warned about. I haven't managed to offend anyone about, so I'll try to change that with this video. I'll try to be as offensive as possible. So let's look at what is a class. A class is simply a collection of statistics to tack onto your character. Contrast that to point buy, which is where you would pick each of the statistics to attach to your character instead of a package of them. So right away, you can see that the point buy, you're going to get more customization. That's just the nature of it. You're going to get more customization to take that character from your mind, shoot him out onto the paper. So I much prefer this method. But let's be realistic. What are the drawbacks of that? Infinite customization options, infinite creativity within the bounds of the rules. It's not going to be infinite, but in theory it could be. If you got, the hero system rulebook, it's this thick, it's a telephone book. It's near infinite. But the drawbacks are it's a completely blank canvas. There's no points of reference. There's no frame of reference. So you could fall into the trap of not lining up with the rest of the world without some guidance. You could look at it and say, oh, well, I don't know how many points would make me really, really good at something. Should I put in 20 points? Should I put in 10? Should I put in 5? What's the sliding scale? So you can get lost there. You could also create a character who's very, very narrowly focused and he's not interesting to play. Like in a role-playing sense, like maybe you make a pure combat brute, but you haven't dedicated any other skills to his culture, his philosophy, his history. He's just a fighter. Like he came out of a fighter factory, like he's a warforged or a battle droid. Which you could still roleplay someone like that and get a lot of value out of that that ignorance to so much of the world, being so tightly focused. Great anime. One of the few animes I've really watched, Gundam Wing, the Endless Waltz movie, is really excellent, and it looks at some of these guys who have been soldiers, and that's all they can do. They've been trained from birth to fight, and now peace has come to the solar system. They don't know what to do, and they feel lost, helpless, useless, abandoned. So you can explore a lot with a narrowly focused character and be great. What's the other side of that trap? You could spread yourself too thin, so you're a complete jack of all trades, but you're not very good at anything individually. I tend to make characters who are closer to this end of the spectrum in general, because I flesh them out so deeply. They have so many different areas that I have to spread my skill points out pretty far and wide. But as we gain more XP, I don't really broaden them. I just make them better at each thing. Now, some people will start with that narrow focus and then they'll broaden out, and their peak combat ability might never improve, but they'll get broader in other aspects. Two great ways to go that you can do in point buy. So overall, I do prefer it. There are some traps to it. There's also, some people have blank canvas syndrome, where they just don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They have no ideas. To those people, I would say don't start by looking at the rule book. Start by talking to the GM about the world, the party, the story he wants to tell. Start by writing a character, and then later stat him out. So that's point buy in a nutshell. Help, I'm in a nutshell. I gotta throw that joke in because it reminds me of high school, and high school was terrible. But speaking of terrible, class systems is the other one. They're not actually terrible, I jest, but some systems don't do them well. Some systems do them very well. So a class-based system kind of moves you along this static progression. So they're very structured, which is great for some people. It also makes the game more gamist, more like a video game, which some people enjoy. Even for a change of pace, I'll even try that every once in a while, because it's bad to do the same thing ad nauseum. So for a change of pace, I'll bust out, video game style class system. I'll even bust out minis and battle maps on occasion to break up the monotony. Because you can eat a delicious steak every day, and you can get tired of that delicious steak. So have yourself some greasy ass Arby's with the curly fries and that cheese sauce that's just made of plastic. And I love Arby's, but I wouldn't. You get sick of eating Arby's every day way quicker than you get sick of eating steak every day. So anyway, class systems provide you with all this structure, all this guidance, which is great if you have blank canvas syndrome, if you want a more video game style. If you want to pick up and play, they're usually a lot quicker, way quicker to get going. Often you won't need to learn the rules as heavily. Not always. There's a huge range, but in general, you won't have to know the rules as well. You can just say, well, I'm a fighter, so what are my abilities? Okay. Whereas in a point buy system, you can't really be like, well, I kind of want to do this, or what should I take? And there can be so many options that you really have to learn it a little better. In general, like broad generalization, lots of exceptions. So the class system gives you that structure. Now the best class-based systems, I would say, are the ones that allow multi-classing and have their base classes be broad in the first place. So probably the best example of this that I've seen is Warhammer Fantasy 2nd Edition. There's 200 classes, about 150 are base and 50 are advanced classes. So you can break these down into broad categories. You've got your heavy fighter, your finesse fighter, your archer or ranged combatant. You've got your black wizard, which has blasting and cursing. You've got your white wizard, which has healing and buffing. You've got your charismatic rogue. You've got your technical rogue, who does traps and locks, and you've got your stealthy rogue, who you don't know where he is until that sneak attack hits you, boom, right in the back of the head, and you've got a dagger point popping out your eyeball. So I would say those are the broad generalizations that you'll find in most games. Warhammer Fantasy, like I said, 150 options. So they've got those core 8 guys, but they've also got all these little tiny variations on them, blendings of them, and you can multi-class between all of these. So it's really fun to do the multi-class. Each class has a little write-up about it to give you some flavor for the world and the setting. Great. And because there's so many, there's so much customization option. Oh, I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that and just a dash of that, you know. Let's contrast the other way and look at the much maligned Pathfinder system. Now this is not the fault of Paizo, the publishers of Pathfinder, because all they did was take this system basically from Wizards of the Coast. And Wizards of the Coast, maybe at the time, it was a good job. It was like the late 90s, I believe, it was published. So maybe for that time period, that was okay. So I'm going to be looking at it from a modern eye. So just keep that in context, because you know we're at 2014 now. So what worked in 1998, you know, that was 15 years ago. That's a long time. So I think role-playing games in general have evolved, or should have evolved, since then. So let's look at Pathfinder. Pathfinder has 8 or 9 base classes, and some of them are nice and broad. The fighter, easily the best one for that. You can customize your fighting style. You can be, you know, it might be too broad, because you can be a power fighter, heavy armor, heavy weapons. You can be a finesse fighter, light armor, light weapons. Or you could be an archer, using crossbows, bows, slings, throwing axes, javelins, what have you. So, you know, for me, I would have made that into 3 classes, but they've made one class so broad that it encompasses all 3 of those. So that's fine. That's great. Now their other classes though start to break down, because there aren't that many of them. There's only 9, and each of them is so specific that it can be hard to take your character concept and spit it out and have it line up with one of these 9 very, very specific archetypes. I'd say other than fighter, the next most general is wizard and or sorcerer. They're about equal, because they have their spell schools for wizards, or their bloodlines for sorcerers, to really customize them. These aren't always going to line up with your character concept, but there are a lot of options. Between those 2 classes, you've got 16 options to go to. So that's pretty good. Next down the line, I might say, is cleric. In terms of being broad, they have the healing. In fact, all of the healing magic out of the core book. Now, where they break down as a generic priest class is that they get armor. So that puts them in the vein of a warrior priest, as opposed to, a white wizard style character who can protect himself, heal his allies, buff his allies. That theoretically the abjurer wizard subclass should fill that same niche with a slightly different flavor, but they actually don't get any healing, and their a lot of their protection abilities aren't actually that great. Like, for example, they don't get mage armor, which is actually conjuration for some reason, and they get no healing. So the abjurer ends up being fairly weak mechanically. Again, I could contrast with Warhammer Fantasy, where they have the light order of mages, and those are wizards that have protective and healing abilities. But they also have priests of Shalia, who's a goddess of healing, mercy, compassion, pacifism. And those clerics are also really specialized in healing and protection and buffing, but in different ways. And you could even multi-class and get, I'm a half cleric of Shalia and half light order mage. So now I have a huge array of heals and protective abilities and buffs and blessings. Whereas I tried to make a abjurer / cleric to do that same kind of thing in Pathfinder, and it really didn't work, because once you start multi-classing in Pathfinder with spellcasting classes, you start to fall behind the curve really quick. It's not a point buy. You could just be like, okay, I'm gonna max out my healing, leave all my other magic behind, and I'm gonna just keep up with that. Whereas in Pathfinder or several other class-based systems as well, if you take a level, then you get this whole package, and if you just want one thing out of that package, you can't get it. You have to take the whole package. So if you go in another direction, you've missed out on that one thing. So you're going to be behind the curve versus someone who's just power gamed it. And for your character concept, maybe he wouldn't be behind the curve. He is excellent at healing, but he just sucks at all other magic. Pathfinder doesn't allow you to do that. A lot of class-based systems won't allow you to do that, to pick and choose the way you necessarily want to. Which is why they should have broad classes, very broad, and Pathfinder is very specific. So anyway, Cleric, back to the topic at hand, Cleric is, they do have a lot of domains to pick from, domains of your gods to customize your Cleric and make him different from other Clerics and throw out exactly what your god represents, which is great. Next, I might come to Rogue. Now, Rogues, I've heard, and this was a big debate on the forum, I've heard people say, oh, Rogues are the generic skill monkey. They get lots of skills. So if you want to be skilled, take a Rogue. But I've also heard people say, well, no, that's partially true because they do get a lot of skills, but they're required to take certain things as well. Sneak attack, which is like opportunistic fencing style or backstabbing fighting style. You have to take that if you're going to be a rogue. And also trap finding. So not only do you have to be an expert at some kind of martial pursuit, whether that's stabbing them in the back or nimbly stabbing the chinks in their armors, but you also have to be an expert at traps. So, when I get my concept, maybe I want to be an expert at traps, but I don't want to be an expert at fighting, that style. Or maybe the opposite, I want to be really good with fighting that style, but I don't want any traps. I can't do it with Pathfinder then, because the rogue is a whole package, and I can't pick and choose, unfortunately. Same thing with skills, though. I played a fighter his concept was he was a knight, a lord. He's very, very skilled at diplomacy, warfare, knowledgeable of history, chivalry. So all of these skills he needed to rule and to lead armies. But just with the fighter class, they don't get very many skills. And if I took rogue for him, his fighting style would change, and he'd somehow need to work trap finding into his background, which really didn't fit. So, I'm at an impasse. Just building this basic kind of knight that should show up again and again and again, the Lord of the Kingdom. Like, that should be a character, there's a lot of them in most games, and you can't build it with Pathfinder. Well, that's really weird. I ended up taking fighter and then burning a lot of my feats on skill focus because that was the best thing to do for him. So, and it worked to a degree. You can work around the class systems. Any system's going to have limitations. It's just Pathfinder has a lot of them. So that's the rogue. Those are the 4 or 5 big archetypal classes. The other ones are much more specific. Like, as much as I'll complain about rogues and clerics being too specific, the other 4 are just ridiculously so. Monks. Well, I suppose monks are fairly broad. It's just they don't fit with a lot of the rest of the setting, typically. So they kind of get their own special little corner. Like, here's monks, which are in the core book, but don't really seem like they should be. And then you got bards, music through magic, and lore master abilities. So again, you got 2 hats to wear. You're already basically multi-classed. So very specific. It's hard to work a character into that pigeonhole. Barbarians are a little more broad. They're okay. They do have fast movement and damage reduction and rage. So you have to incorporate all three of those. They probably have some other abilities as well, I've forgotten. But they're fairly broad abilities. And then you have Druid. They turn into animals. Plus they can heal and buff. And they have a pet, an animal companion. So again, a lot of things that you have to incorporate. You have to take all these elements. You can't leave out one from your backstory. So Pigeonholed again. Not that bad again with Druids. Druids, Barbarians, they're okay. What am I missing out on here? Oh, Paladins, which are even more of a warrior priest than clerics are. So that warrior priest archetype, that's still fairly broad. You can customize it with your god. And then Rangers. Rangers are probably the most pigeonholed because they're hunters with an animal companion and specific fighting style, and they can cast magic from nature. So they're so specific and pigeonholed that you'll have a real hard time making your ranger very much different from someone else's ranger. And I probably should have prefaced this when I was talking about Pathfinder, but I'll postface it and mention that I'm just talking the core book. So for anybody who's saying, wait, there's a splat book for that, I don't care. I'm reading the core book, what you're presenting to someone who's just bought your product, what you're building around and off of. That's all I care about. Because I'm not going to buy your splat books if your core book sucks. I'm probably not going to buy your splat books anyway. I'm a real core book kind of guy. I'd rather have 10 different core books than one core book and 9 supplements. It's just far superior to me in terms of the range that you can get out of your ongoing role-playing game hobby. So I'll postface that. I'm just talking core books. So you can fix and errata a lot of stuff in splat books, but it's always going to be a barrier to entry, and for that reason, I'm leaving that alone. So I think that's pretty much it. So point buy, you got great customization. Watch out for blank canvas syndrome, however, and make sure you've got a point of comparison, sliding scale to work with. Class systems, try to find one that's very broad, that allows multi-classing, and try in general to avoid one with very, very pigeonholed classes that force you to be a very similar character to another person's character, because that gets old really, really quick. I might mention Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition as well, where it from what I've seen, it does a pretty good job actually of having the classes still have lots of options and be very broad and generic. So 4th edition in that aspect is much better than 3rd edition or Pathfinder, in my opinion. Other mechanics make it less useful for me. I'd rather play Pathfinder than 4th edition, but in that comparison of who does classes better, 4th edition I would say is an easy winner. So okay, I'm going to leave off there. Leave your comments below. Keep them civil because there's a lot of hate on the board. People are personally attacking each other. Apparently. So I'm going to sign out now, and y'all have a good day on YouTube.